Becoming a successful professional speaker is a journey. How do you find that first stage, the next stage, and then the bigger and better stages? I'm Lee Hayes, your host. My co-hosts and I are here to guide you to a more successful speaking career. You're listening to Path to the Main Stage podcast. Welcome, everybody. I have a different perspective for you in today's podcast. Instead of bringing on an expert who's been around for 30 years, we're going to look at someone who's still on the emerging side, is getting on those stages, and has wonderful perspective for people who are going along that same path to help them and help them learn and learn from what he's done. So welcome, Todd Bertsch, to the podcast.
Hi, Lee. I'm excited to be here.
I am excited to have you. I've actually talked with my producer for a while now. He said, let's bring on somebody who's in the middle of the mire right now, because that's going to give such great perspective and help other people, learn from what you're doing. So give me a little background. What kind of speaker are you? Meaning, do you do keynotes or workshops? And in what arena? Who's your audience?
Yeah, great question. Well, emerging speaker, I think we all want the keynotes, right? That's what this conversation is all about. That's what your show's about, getting to that main stage. What's that path look like? So absolutely want the keynotes. Getting a few, so that's great. It's only been a year, getting a few of those. Mainly conferences, breakout sessions, really just trying to get the reps. That's what it's all about.
Yeah,
more
absolutely. And are you more, so have you done any like Chamber of Commerce? Are you mainly associations? Just give me an idea of a couple events you've done.
Yes, started off on the chamber circuit, and that's what I'd recommend for anybody starting off, to get the reps, and then you just kind of work your way up to the conferences. So my industry that I'm targeting is the HR industry. My topic is all about change, embracing change, and igniting your spark, and that resonates really well with the HR folks. So hitting all of the HR chapters, the SHRM chapters, so they all have meetings every month, and then hitting the conferences, both local in my town, my area of Ohio, and then hitting, surrounding areas as well.
Well, I'm going to start by commenting on what you're doing so everybody learns from that. You are working on one particular niche, right? So you're very specific, and I have an HR background. I was a SHRMer. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And one thing that is so important for emerging speakers is not try to be all things to all people. And I love that you are focusing on the HR market. And SHRM, I mean, you've dug into an enormous organization that holds lots of events and eventually has that main stage. I've been to the national conference where they bring in huge speakers.
Yeah.
I think when I was there, I saw Jack Welch and Richard Branson and, so that caliber and everything in between. So having that focus is tremendous. So just wanted to bring that out, that's a great start versus saying, yeah, I'm just doing whatever, Lee, trying to hit any of them.
Well, and that's a good point, Lee, actually, to start there, because one of my challenges, and I would assume other emerging speakers have this same challenge, especially when you have a topic like mine that is so broad, it could reach everybody. It could be relevant to really anybody who's embracing change or wants to embrace change. So that made it difficult. So finding that niche wasn't a home run right off the bat. It took me a little bit, but I also have some inroads there already, at least in Northeast Ohio. And once I learned a little bit more about that industry, how tight-knit it is, how organized, as you said, there is a great national foundation, and almost every town, like a chamber, has a chapter. So once you identify that, you can go after it really easy. And they love speakers. They always have speakers. But the one thing about HR and the SHRMs, most of them are not paid. But, and we'll get into that, I'm sure. But finding that niche is really important. If you can do that early on, it will save you time and energy, which is what we all want more of.
Oh, absolutely. And one thing we had talked about in the past, and I think this is a great place to jump into it now, is you're talking about getting the reps in. Talk a little bit about
the grind, the hustle.
Mm,
Because I have many speakers come to me, Todd, who go, I don't want to hustle. I just want to get on
mm.
stage. I just want to just, bypass that step. And that's, from my perspective, that's not something you bypass. So tell me a little bit about how you've been grinding, what it takes.
Yeah, for most of us, right, if you're not Tony or Mel Robbins, right, you have this huge following, you have multiple books, you're not going out and just hitting these main stages. You have to earn those stripes. And to earn those stripes, you have to do the work. And really, just like any field, I think people, and I honestly, I was a little naive, Lee, at first. I've been doing public speaking for most of my career, but not on a professional level. And I think a lot of people do that, right? They're at a C level or VP level, and maybe they speak for their company or do pitches, or maybe a conference or two, not paid. And then they get out and they go out on their own. And they think, oh, I have this great message, and everybody wants to hear it, and they're just going to hire me. I'll tell you what, that is not the case. You have to, right? You have to earn your stripes. So this is a true grind. If you don't love it, you're not going to last. I love it. My passion is being on that stage. Back from when I was a break dancer 30 years ago, I love being on that stage. I love the performance. I love the excitement on people's face when you get up there, that hope, the inspiration. But it takes a lot of work, and you have to be willing to do that work. And it's all about getting the reps. You start your way, right? It's almost like a baseball system. You start in the farm league, the minor leagues, and you just work your way up. In the minor leagues, nothing against chambers. They're wonderful people, wonderful groups and organizations, but that's a great place to start. Hit the Rotaries, hit the chambers. Hell, there's almost 200 chambers in Ohio. So I know every state, there's going to be one in almost every town. And they have a lunch meeting every month, and they're looking for speakers. It's not paid, but it's a great way to practice, and who knows, you might get a stage side lead.
You might, and even though it's not paid, quite frankly, in the beginning, a lot of emerging speakers don't deserve to be paid because they're excited about their message. And so they go, oh, I'm doing such a great job. And you're not yet. You're a beginner speaker, and you really need to practice. It doesn't come without practice. It really doesn't. So there's always value in every stage. And I always tell speakers, don't worry about getting paid all the time. Worry about the value you're getting. And you make such a good point that in the beginning, the value is the experience. It's getting out there. It's getting the repertoire. And even if you have the confidence, you don't know what's going to resonate yet. You know, which joke is going to resonate, which story is going to resonate. And I imagine with the chambers, every now and then you'd say something and you'd get the laugh and you'd go, oh, there's one, right? That's something I need to keep in my talk.
Right.
And other things can go away. So I love what you're saying about doing your reps. So important. And we'll talk about stage side leads as well, which you just mentioned, which is also a big piece of value. And someday we're going to have to unpack the break dancing, but we'll do that at another time. But just because we're talking about topics, just because you have a topic in your heart doesn't mean everybody wants to listen to it. And I think some of those reps will teach you what they want to hear. What's your experience with that? Did you just start out with a particular topic and have you honed it since then?
Yeah, great question. Yes, I did. I started off with like the power of positivity and cultivating a growth mindset. And that resonated really well. I created a deck from scratch. It was what I was passionate about. It tapped into my origin stories, right? Which is what people want to hear. They want to connect with you, and that's all about the stories. And I had those in spades. And then as time went on, I knew I needed to hone in a little bit more. So actually this year, I just hired a speaker coach, and he's helping me, what he calls, find the silver bullet, find that nuance that nobody else is talking about to really make me stand out. And then this will be great preparation for the TEDx or TED Talk as well.
No, that is very important. I always talk about with my students, you need to have something special. You need to have a thing, right? Something that people can point to and go, oh, that's different or unique or special or something. Because if you're the same old, which is fine, then you're a teacher, you're not a speaker, right? So
Facilitator, yeah.
you're a facilitator. Because, I mean, when you go to college, all those professors at the front of the room are speaking to an audience, but they're teachers. They can take existing material and just push it out. The
Yeah, that's a
difference
great
between
point.
that and the other stage, right, is that it's your material and not common material. So,
Right.
yes, you need that silver bullet. Now, what have you found along the way about how much of it is yours? How much of it is it about you? Like you were talking about your origin story. And what else do you need to consider?
Yeah, well, the biggest aha moment, I think, Lee, was it's not about me. It's not about me. It is about the audience. And if you listen to any podcast, you read any books on speaking, they will all say this is one thing that the speaking industry is aligned on. It's all about the audience. And that took me a little bit to learn. And there were a few hiccups that I made where I was really pushing something, or maybe I ran out of time because I pushed something that I felt was important that I wanted to do selfishly. I mean, I thought it would be great for the audience, but at the end of the day, it caused me to run out of slides, run out of time, and maybe not be as productive, formative as it should have been for the audience. So there's just times where you have to really just step back. And in fact, now I have a printout when I go speak of a few things I want to remind myself of. And one is it's not about you, to myself, so that I'm reminded of that.
Yeah, it's not about you. And also, I can share a story. It's also not for speakers to push their agenda, right?
Oh, yes.
But many speakers do, not many, some speakers do. It's about your message, how your message helps the audience, what they can take away from it. I had a
Right.
speaker once, and I don't like to bring up names on the podcast when they're not positive comments, but this was a speaker who had experience in the medical community from the patient side, right? Extensive experience. And he spoke to a group of medical professionals. And at the end, the feedback I got was he pushed his agenda and told us we were wrong. And not a good idea. So speakers, when you come in with a great message, you want to share what you do right and how to elevate the audience, but you don't ever tell them that they're wrong. People don't want to hear that. Audiences, that they're not paying you to tell them that they're wrong, just how to do better. So, but that was someone pushing their agenda, and just reinforcing what you say, that it's your message, but it's what the audience gets from it. It's what they need and how you can raise them up, not just about you or how you feel or what you're gonna push toward them.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And now, so when you're on the stage, what are some like you talk about storytelling? How much do you do storytelling versus other techniques on the stage, and what else do you do up there?
Yeah, good question. Still working through that. And I think that's part of the emerging part, right? Is really learning the balance between storytelling, EDU, information, and then the other piece that's greatly important is interaction. You got to have those interactive pieces. You got to pull the audience in, and that was one thing that I learned early on. Because when you start to get the surveys, whether you use Talkadot or some other platform, you'll start to see, and what they love most are the stories and the interaction. That's it. So having a good blend of that mixed in with some educational piece, some actionable items, some takeaways. But really, as much as you can get them involved, and again, it's not about you. So if you can pull them in, you're going to connect with them. And when you connect, they're going to pay attention. They're going to be really involved. And it's like you're having a conversation. At least that's how I approach it. It's not me, Todd, this talking head up here, just da-da-da-da-da. It's, hey, let's talk through this. Let me help you. Let me inspire you, instill some hope so that you can walk away feeling like you've got something out of this. Your time was well spent with me.
Yeah. Is there any type of interaction that you've used that you have found to be effective?
It is, but I can't give away my secrets, Lee.
Ah, okay, sure.
No, but yeah, like I have all these secrets. But no, there is one. I have a piece that's kind of become my signature bit is where I have the audience dance. So part of embracing change is really embracing discomfort.
Hmm.
And most people, especially males, don't love to dance. So I play a minute and a half of Bruno Mars, and we experience some discomfort. But I have them close their eyes, so we eliminate fear. And most people just love it. That is like the one piece of feedback I get on the surveys. They're like, "Oh, I love that. It just broke up this," and it's usually about mid-session, so we get them up and they're moving and they're having some fun, and it's fun.
No, absolutely fun. And audience interaction definitely is a great
Hmm.
technique. For example, I work with Jesse Cole, the owner of the Savannah Bananas,
Mm.
and he gets every audience, same thing, on their feet every time and
Yeah.
at every game
Oh yeah, you can't.
dancing, right? They do the Hey Baby dance, which they will have 100,000 people on their
Oh, yeah,
feet dancing Hey Baby. So
that's
I can
crazy.
see bringing that to an audience brings some energy. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Get that blood moving.
Yep. Some things maybe not to do, which are not things you've talked about, just things I would like to share, is we talked about this on another podcast, and very typical for emerging speakers is when they come out on stage and they go, "Hi, everybody." And you know it's coming, right? Then there's the
Mm-hmm.
pause and they go, "I can't hear you. Hi, everybody." That's telling the audience that they're wrong. That's picking a fight with the
Mm-hmm.
audience because they didn't do what you told them to do, and now you're making them do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Very classroom, very, no
Mm-hmm.
punishment for the audience. So definitely fun interactions are better. And if somebody sits there with their arms crossed and refuses to dance, I don't imagine you pick them out and
No.
go, "No, we need to do this again," right? You
Right.
let those people who want to enjoy, and those
Mm-hmm.
few wet shirts, you let them sit. But
Watch.
for the most part,
Right.
it's great to have interaction. And I know gifts are always another great fun one
Mm-hmm.
that I have a couple speakers who throw things in the audience. However, you don't want to get into the old school throw the candy for a correct answer.
Mm-hmm.
That, which is a great workshop technique, but we're
Right.
talking about
Right.
the main stage here. That's not a
Mm-hmm.
main stage technique. You've got to get
Right.
bigger and grander if you're going to throw things from the main stage.
Mm-hmm.
Because you also need to consider that a main stage is like if you do a chamber of commerce and you want to toss a couple candies, you're maybe dealing with 30 people.
Right.
But when you've 300, again, you're excluding people by throwing things to the front row only.
Right. Yeah.
So if you're going to do a t-shirt launcher, do the t-shirt launcher, but you want to engage the entire audience. That's how they engage stadiums, right? Is they fire things up to
Right.
the second
Mm-hmm.
level. But another great engagement technique,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Yeah, I love gifts, and my approach, Lee, is I wait for people to come up after to talk to me, and those are the people that I gift items to, whether it be a T-shirt or a journal or stickers or something fun. If
Yeah,
like they put in the work, they want to come up, they're engaging with me, so.
absolutely. And it's interesting you just talked about people coming up. Can we talk a little bit about stage side
Mm-hmm.
leads?
Yes.
How does that help tell you about the message you're giving, and what do you get out of that?
Absolutely. It's all about the stage side leads, right? If you're a speaker, you want more speaking gigs and you want bigger speaking gigs. You want the main stage. So you need the stage side leads so that you can get more speaking gigs. And that goes back to not all gigs are created equal, right? And you might do one for free because or at least there's a good idea because you've asked the questions about who is going to be in the audience. And if those are the people you're trying to get in front of, maybe you do it for free. I've got my biggest contracts from free gigs, and it just happened to be the right people were in the room and my message resonated with them. But the stage side leads are incredibly important. If your message is landing, there should be at least 3 to 5 people that come up to you afterwards and want to meet you and learn more about you. And hopefully those turn into leads and then other gigs or some coaching work, whatever your funnel is, your service offering. But yeah, incredibly important. And it's good. My one friend says everything is data, right? So we're just experimenting, honestly, especially in the first couple of years. You're like a scientist. You're just tweaking and learning and failing as you go. And that's data. If nobody's coming up after, there's probably an issue with either the way that you're presenting or your topic in general.
Okay, and I think that feedback is much more important. You talked about Talkadot. I know speakers that use Talkadot. For anyone who doesn't know, that is a feedback app where audience members give feedback straight to the speaker. From my viewpoint, because I see speakers who give that to me, it's a little bit of a vanity app because people don't say bad things. If I see reviews from the event itself versus Talkadot views from the same event, the Talkadot will always be more positive because you're giving the feedback straight to the speaker. So I think it's very important to not look at Talkadot for praise, but for feedback that's going to help you as far as messaging and connection, but not just the numbers, right? Because everyone's going to go, they were great. Look at the comments. I think you'll get a lot more, not you the audience, will get a lot more out of Talkadot comments, because you had mentioned that about messaging versus just the praise. So do look for that if you're going to employ a thing like that. And do get feedback from events when you can. And don't let them get to you, right? All feedback is good when you're emerging and even when you're accomplished. And I think it becomes even harder when you're accomplished to take feedback. Not everyone's going to love you. You're not going to resonate with everyone. That's okay. It doesn't even mean you need to change your message. It might mean it was the wrong audience, or maybe it was just one wrong person in the audience. And quite frankly, with an HR background, and I'm sure you've recognized this too, not all people want to be happy.
Right.
Some people just want to be miserable. And I remember once the worst feedback one of my speakers ever got was like 111, terrible, horrible. What were they so upset about? The food was awful. Now, how that impacted the speaker, I'm not sure, but it just dashed, like everything was horrible, horrible, horrible. Those are okay. If you get something out of it, fine. If you don't, move on. It's all right.
Right.
But do look for audience feedback, like you said, at the side of the audience after you speak. Again, those are going to be fans who come up, not people who hate you.
Right.
But really listen to them and ask questions. What resonated most?
Right.
To get sort of the highlights.
Yes.
And something I want to dig more with you, Todd, is that while you were talking about that, you said you study the audience. How do you study the audience, and do you do that before you get on stage? And if you do, how do you learn about the audience before getting on stage?
Yeah, I'm very curious about everything, and I think that's our superpower, especially with speaking. So I'm asking a ton of questions. I'm trying to learn as much about the audience, the conference, or if I'm doing a corporate gig, as much as possible. So I want to know who are the people. If it's a corporate, right, if I'm getting paid to go to a corporate entity, I want to know who the people are. I want to know what their roles are, what their titles are. I might even go as far as looking them up on LinkedIn to get a sense of who's going to be in that room. If it's a conference, you won't know, right? Especially if you're a keynote or even a breakout, you might get 50, 80 people, you won't know. But generally speaking, who are the types of people that come to this conference? And you could probably start to understand that if you're going to an HR conference, you're going to have, like-minded people in probably most every conference. So you just get a sense of who's in the room. And the more you know, the better you can cater your content. Not that you want to tweak it, all the way. And we'll talk about Michael Port, I'm sure, in a little bit. But, you want that message to resonate. Again, not about you. So the more that you can make it about them and understand them and their problems, they want a solution. That's why they're there. They want to walk away with something. Well, they don't have time to mess around. So again, it does go back to them. But I want to, if I can, Lee, I want to circle back to something
Sure.
when you were talking about survey data. And yes, surveys, absolutely important. And not everyone is created equal. And that will help you as an emerging speaker at least get some testimonials. That's really important. So whether they're all positive or not, it's validation. It's credibility that you've actually spoke to an audience. So I just want to say, whether you use Talkadot, I use MailChimp. That's what I use for my CRM and my email. So it already has a survey feature. It takes me 15 minutes. I create my own and I just do a QR code and then they can get it afterwards. So it's up to them. It's not forced. I might even ask the coordinator if they can send an email out with a link, so to partner up with me. But I will say, not all gigs are created equal, is what this reminded me of, because when you get feedback, so you could do a corporate gig, which typically those do pay. So maybe you have an off day, out of work, half day or full day, and they bring in multiple speakers, or maybe there's an all staff conference in service, and then you have conferences, right? So this is one thing I learned, Lee, two different types of people. So you have the conference, they paid, they want to go there, right? They want to be there for the most part. And then you have the corporate, they've been told that they have to go to this event. And that was an aha moment for me. I'm like, wow, the vibe of the audience is so different when you have to be there and you chose to be there. And that is not a nuance that I've read about or really heard about. And I just wanted to mention that because that was something that I learned. Not that I tweak my message or my presentation, but it's just good to know that. Having that expectation going in. And you'll definitely see it in the survey feedback as well. So I just wanted to mention that.
I'm so glad you did, because while so true, it's something that's never come up on one of my podcasts. But you're right. Some audiences have to be there. Some audiences want to be there. It makes a huge difference. I was once at a Keith Urban concert, which is just talking about Sherm, and Sherm had brought in Keith Urban as entertainment.
Oh.
So big air hangar or whatever it was, 15,000 people, maybe only 12 showed up for the concert, but it was a free concert. And many people there had never even heard of the man. And he gets on stage and he says, all right, here we are. You're Shermers. I'm not sure what that is, but let's go. And he does the first song and it's kind of flat because not everyone knows. I mean, these are people from around the world. Listen to this country guy and it didn't resonate with everybody. Mm-hmm. And he shifted gears and started doing cover top 40 pop music, which is not his stuff, but his band had a few songs in their repertoire and it turned the audience around. So I think you brought up such a great point of awareness where, tweaking or not, we can talk a little bit about that. Your audience might have to be there, and you're going to have to think about that when you get on stage, that it's not personal, but you need to accept that and roll with it.
Yeah, that's a good point. You brought up the pivot. And then I think that comes with experience, right? You get into a session and maybe you got a bad vibe in there and you need to maybe pivot a little bit and add a little bit more interaction just to get the audience back into it for whatever reason. Maybe the weather's horrible and it took them forever to get there, or maybe the food was bad, who knows? But again, reading the room.
And one great thing to study stand-up comics.
Yes.
Because you get
love
in there,
love that.
Yeah, they can just die on stage, and
so much to learn from.
So much to learn. Yep.
Yes.
You got to keep rolling.
Right.
For anybody out there who's got a connection to Steve Martin, I would love to have Steve Martin on my podcast because he's such a good teacher about that topic.
Yeah.
And about the content that you're presenting and listening and feedback and all this. So just throwing that out to the universe.
Yeah. And they're all about getting the reps.
All about the reps.
Right.
Yeah.
That's they set the tone. They'll just go into a little dive bar and just see if they can get on stage just to practice.
Just do it, right?
Hundreds
and as a speaker, you've got to just do it. So wouldn't that be fun? Go to some bar and be like, you know what? I'm going to speak if everyone's okay with that.
Yeah,
We're going
yeah.
to talk about HR and leadership right now.
Yes, let's talk about change. Yeah, not going to happen, but it would be fun.
But that's sort of what the Chambers of Commerce are,
Yeah.
right? Is getting those
Yeah.
reps in.
That's
So,
true. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about Michael Port since you brought it up, because there are different schools of thought, and I know Michael is much more of the thinking that you go with your stuff as it is, you don't mess with it, because you've practiced. He's an actor, right? He was on TV, and if you've seen Sex and the City, you've seen Michael Port and many other shows. But as an actor, you've got those polished lines, and the more you do it, the better it gets, the more polished it gets. But there are some speakers who do customize quite a bit. I would say 2 of my speakers do what I call heavy customization. They customize 40%. But it's also it's because of their material that they customize. Because of the scientific nature of their speaking and the medical nature that they adjust to the audience, but they still have that core piece that they don't change. They don't mess with. They know it works and doesn't work.
Right.
So I'd love for you to jump in on that. Obviously, I know you're a Michael Port fan and heroic public speaking, and what have you learned and experienced?
Yeah, first I will say, Lee, if I were to go back, the first thing I would recommend is pick up this book.
Yep. it's on
Bar
my shelf.
none, the best resource for speaking out there.
And for anyone
Podcast,
who's not-
conference.
Yeah, if you're not watching, that is the referable speaker by Michael
I'm
Port.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. This book changed everything for me. And I read it a few months ago, so I was, well into my time as a speaker, my first year. I wish I would have found this book early on. And I will say too, there's another one too that I want to share. Smiley, The Breakthrough Speaker. This is an excellent book as well. Very different than Michael's. It's just raw. It's full of stories. He's a great story in and of himself, and he has all kinds of other speakers on throughout the book that talk about their journey as a speaker. So really cool, 2 books. But yeah, so back to referable speaker Michael Port. I love that. I was doing so much customization, Lee, and oh my God, thank goodness I wasn't tracking my time, because if I come from the service industry, so it's all about billable time. How much time does it take to speak? And everyone says, oh, wow, you got paid X, and it was only 60 minutes. Yeah, no. All the prep time, if you're doing it right, some people just go out and they just go, and you can tell that they didn't do the work. They didn't practice. They didn't refine and tweak. But yeah, Michael, from what I took from the book, is all about just having that core, that one referable speech. And that goes back to that USP, that unique selling proposition, that nuance. What are you known for? I'm the spark guy or the change guy. That's what I want to be known for. And that's sticky. That resonates. And then I'm not tweaking the whole presentation. And I was doing that, Lee. I was doing 50% customization for because I just needed to get the gigs. And I was willing to do it, and it was so much time, and there's no way that I could do that now. So now I work on a core, like Michael talks about, having that core, and then maybe I'll tweak 20% based on the audience. But once you get into a field like HR that we've been talking about, it's going to be applicable to really everybody in that room. So you don't have to do a whole lot of tweaking. So a lot of time, and that's your baby. Like, you just know that inside out. You don't even need the slides, right? It's in your bones. So that's what I took away from it, was less customization and really fine tuning and being the master of that one referable speech and heroic speaking. And his heroic speaking.
Great program. Yeah, a lot of speakers.
Yeah, so I'm going through it next month. So I'm excited. I'm doing the 2-day boot camp, so highly recommend you at least take a look at it.
Yep, absolutely. Check it out. It's great for speakers. Now, one thing though many things about, like you said, having this core talk is when you're an emerging speaker, you don't need 3 different topics, because you're not going to be good at 3 different things right away. Start with one. And again, we're talking about stand-up comics. They have a core list of jokes, right, that work, and then you add a little bit each time. You practice a little new thing, because if that falls flat, at least you know the rest of your talk is tight, and then you can move on, right? But like you said, if you're doing 20% customization, that could be for the audience. It also could be testing new material, but just test a little at a time, because if you walk into a new audience cold and it doesn't land, you know that and they're paying you, that's a bad thing. So that those little tweaks are good. And also it's good for when something goes wrong. So here's my segue into when things go wrong and having a speaker kit. But if something goes wrong, like your mic goes out, you know, something happens, when your material is, as you described, in your bones, you can pick it right back up flawlessly when they fix the whatever happened, without panicking, going, oh my gosh, like where was I? And you can just keep going because you know that material. But let's segue here. Things go wrong. What do you do about it? How do you plan for it? You had some great tips we had talked about once.
Yeah, the thing is, Lee, just go in knowing something's going to go wrong. Make that assumption so that you're not going in thinking this is going to be absolutely perfect. And when you're doing that beginner circuit, that farm system circuit, there's going to be something wrong. And you're going to be the IT person. I can't tell you how many projectors I personally had to set up. And thankfully they even had a projector, but nobody knew what to do with it. So I make sure to get there an hour early. And yes, it's more time, but I want to make sure. So this is the one time where I think it's about me. I want to make sure that I'm prepared so that I can deliver a great experience for the people, because they won't know. And it's not their fault that the projector doesn't work, or that the clicker doesn't work, or that there's no clicker, or that there's not a cord for your laptop. The right cord. Do you have an Apple? Do you have a PC? Do you have an extension cord? My laptop had no battery life. So I made sure I had, a 30-foot extension cord that I brought with me, because you never know where the outlet's going to be. All those things, so many things, the audio, the video, the cords.
Well,
there's
you're
always
talking
going to
about
be something.
connectors and having actually what you call
The
I think, a
connectors.
speaker kit, right?
A speaker survival kit.
Survival
Yeah.
kit, thank you. Yes.
Yeah, because again, it is on you. And especially if you're getting paid, you want to make sure that you deliver as much as possible. In multiple file types, if you're delivering it, you don't know if a PDF is going to save your fonts or a PowerPoint. Make sure you have a USB, or a couple guys say have 2 or 3 USB flash drives. So you have multiple backups of backups of backups. And then the one thing that I learned, I can't remember who it was, but said to take printouts.
Yes.
What if everything fails? Have your cue cards, if you will, just in case. Again, it's always thinking about the worst case scenario. And it's hard because it does kind of put you in a negative mindset. But if you have that mental fitness, you can go in saying, you know what? And I've had some gigs, Lee, that were horrendous. Everything went wrong. And I said, you know what? This is a learning experience. If this is the worst that could happen, then I can handle anything. So you just have to look at it, find the gift, it's experience, it's data, and then move on. But just be ready. Don't go in thinking that everything is going to be absolutely perfect. And I don't know, Lee, as you get to the main stage, is everything absolutely perfect? I don't know.
Not, and I can
Right.
I can give you some stories on that. So it's definitely the level you're talking about, where you don't have the professional hotel AV crew and all this. There are some inexpensive things that you can do that you might want to do if something's really important to you. You can buy projectors now for, very little, and you can carry your own little projector with you if it's important, again, that you have slides. Maybe you want to bring your own clicker if you really like to have. Clickers get lost. Let me tell you, clickers get lost. So maybe you want to have your own in case, again, advancing slides and you like to move around. You mentioned all the cords and connectors. I know a lot of speakers who, at every level, if they bring their own laptop, they've got 5 different types of connectors because they don't know how to get into the system. As you move up in levels, here are some tips from some experts. Mike Michalowicz, great speaker. He has his own timer. Here's one of his secrets. He's got a watch that vibrates and it clicks off time for him, and he can reset it by tapping it, one of these Apple Watches or whatnot, so that he always knows his time without having to look for a timer or if they don't have one. Alex Ramon, world-class illusionist. He travels with his own videographer because there's no guarantee, even though he does high-end events, that the person who's doing the videography understands how to get in and do close-up magic and project it. He's got his own guy who he travels with to do that. My goodness, Tyler Gillum is the head coach of the Savannah Bananas. He travels again with a videographer, tech guy, who he said has absolutely saved him at events when something didn't go right. His tech guy just jumped in with the AV team and fixed things. So definitely, and I'm not saying you have to do that, but top guys do that. Damon John, I believe, I could be wrong here, he's not one of my speakers. I think he takes his own tech crew, from what I understand. He goes in and runs the tech. He leaves nothing to chance because he has involved, engaged keynotes. He's high level, right? He does hundreds of gigs a year for 6 figures. And so he has his own crew. He doesn't leave it to chance. So every level looks at something. You have to look at what's most important to you as a speaker. And if something went wrong with that, be prepared. Like you said, if you are slide heavy and you need that, or you need notes in the beginning, have those. Also, introductions. How many times they say ahead of time, please send the introduction. They always want it ahead of time. And then the speaker gets there and the person announcing them goes, what? You sent me what? I don't have it. Always, at every level, if someone's supposed to introduce you, have it in your back pocket, so in case nobody gave it to the MC because they're not involved in the event planning or the teching or anything else, that you can hand them a piece of paper. Otherwise, they're going to wing it, and winging it might not put you in the best light coming on that stage. So I love the idea of bringing a piece of paper. Go low tech, or at least have it on your phone that you can zip it over to them, and then they can just read off of that.
I love that, Lee. I actually never thought about that. I print out the slide deck, but not the intro. I haven't ran into the issue, but that's a great tip. I just wrote that down.
Yeah, no, that's a big one. I've run into events. I've had speakers, because speakers, of course, will come back to me and say, Lee, why weren't they prepared? Didn't you send them my intro? And I'm going, 3 times. But you're not the one standing there. Now I tell speakers, just have it in your pocket or their phone, or let me know, and I'll have it handy so I can zip it over to them.
Right.
And like you said, different formats. Again, if I send PowerPoint and it has video or music or anything in it that's other than just images, I send them backup files just in case. I have speakers who use Canva. Canva, very lovely, beautiful, very visual. If their high-speed Wi-Fi is not working, well, Canva's dead in the water now. So you might want to have a PowerPoint backup. So I am violently agreeing with you that yes, backups for your equipment, backups for your whatever you're doing. If in doubt, watch a couple bloopers from Taylor Swift. She is very good at pivoting when her outfit breaks, her mic doesn't start. So there's a level, right, where I'm sure they've tested that mic 10 times and the 11th time didn't work, and she pivoted. So really great point. Really, going deep there on speaker kit. You got to be ready.
Yeah, and the pivots, that comes with experience, and that comes from going back to doing the reps. The more you do the talk, the better you feel comfortable with it, and you don't have that reliance on other things, and you could just run. But you can't do that if you don't know it real well. And it's difficult at first. I needed the slides. That was my crutch, because I didn't have it fully memorized. I'm just starting. I mean, I could practice for hours and hours, but unless you're in front of a stage, that's where the real practice comes, or in front of an audience. So get the reps. I think that is what it's all about. But I did want to talk real quick. Lee, you talked about the one guy bringing his video crew. I think we probably should talk about video because it's extremely important, especially as an emerging speaker. Again, like the testimonials, it's proof. So you need that validation, you need that credibility that I have spoken, and people want to see what it's like, even if it's just a snippet. So my recommendation is from your very first time, if all you do is set up your phone, we all have great cameras on our phone now, and you can get a very cheap tripod that's a magnet, and you can just snap your phone right to it and hit record. And at least you have some data. So you could watch it back, learn from it, and you might even be able to pull some segments out to create a speaker reel. And there's debate about, do people like speaker reels or not? How long should it be? Look, if you're starting off, it's all proof. Here's a testimonial, and here's a little video to show that I've done this and can do this. And this is what it's like for me to be on a stage. So I believe a reel is incredibly important. My very first speaking gig, I hired a videographer to come and shoot me because I wanted to have it. And I'm a marketing guy, so I knew that going in, but I think it's really important to capture that video. And think about the stage. You know, grab your own footage from your phone, but if you know you're going to be on, free or not, the venue, I mean the physical venue, the lighting, the way that the seating's arranged, the crowd's arranged, then maybe you hire somebody, a professional, to come in and really shoot that. So really think about once or twice a year getting some really great footage.
Yeah, and here I'll take care of that, the debate about speaker reel. Yes, you need a speaker reel. Some people want it, some people don't, but why alienate those people who want it? Have it, right?
Yeah.
So there you go on that. All right, so
Thank
let me
you.
wrap it on this. And you've already covered so many of these points, but see if there's anything left. Is there one thing, if you could, you have some experience, you've got some mileage now. If you could go back and talk to Todd from day one, the first time you get on stage, what is a piece of advice you would give to him that you wish you knew then?
This is a grind. It's a lot of work. It's a business. I don't think a lot of people realize you're creating a business. This isn't a freelance consultant, like to really go in. You're creating a business, and that's a lot of work, whether it's you or someone else. And it can be quite lonely. It can be quite lonely. Not to be negative about it, but it's a lot of work, and it can be lonely because you're out there on your own, you're traveling. You need to be aware of what you're getting into and give yourself a runway, because to get to that main stage, it's 3, 5, 10 years out. You got to do the reps and earn those stripes. So you can't just keep your day job, do the reps on the side, build up, and then when you're ready, go out, because it's not just going to happen overnight. You have to respect the craft, and it is a craft. Just like golf, there are nuances to the nth degree. Better you learn and respect the craft, you'll be an amazing speaker.
And that is exactly why I call this Path to the Main Stage podcast, because it is a trail, it is a hike. But you know what? I think from every speaker I've ever talked to who's really wants to make it to the end of that path, who wants to make it to the big stages, it's worth it. And it's a great journey every step of the way. So thank you so much for joining me today, Todd. Such great information that you gave. I think that's really going to help a lot of people think about those foundational aspects of speaking that you absolutely need to start crawling onto that path and climbing over those rocks. And for everybody else, I'll see you soon on the next episode. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Lee.
Thanks for listening to Path to the Main Stage. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And for full video episodes, check out YouTube. If you want to be a successful speaker, you need to make it happen. My co-hosts and I are here to help guide you. But if you need more help, please check out pathtothemainstage.com, where we can connect. And until next time, keep sharing your voice, keep showing up, and keep taking your path to the main stage.